watching this video. Beginning in the 8th century before Christ, ancient Rome grew from a small town on the central Italy's Tiber River into an empire that at its peak encompassed most of continental Europe, Britain, much of the Western Asias, Northern Africa, and the Mediterranean islands. Among many of the legacies of the Roman dominance are the widespread use of Romance languages, such as Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and the Romanian, of course, derived from Latin, most of the modern Western alphabet and calendar, and the emergence of Christianity as a major world religion. After 450 years as a republic, Rome became an empire in the wake of Julius Caesar and Emperor Augustus, and began a golden age of peace and prosperity by contrast. The empire's decline and fall by the 5th century AD was the most dramatic implosions of the history of the human civilization.
You're up,
Emperor
now,
Flavius Honorius Augustus.
and it's time you started acting like one.
Yeah! Oh, but I'm not sure I know how.
Allow me to demonstrate. First, puff out your chest. Now say tax exemption.
Tax exemption!
Now you must acquire a taste for...
The burden of military and civil maintenance.
Okay,
Honorius.
you ready?
The power of the monarch passed to two annually elected magistrates, called consuls. They also served as communication-in-chief of the army. The magistrates, though elected by the people, were drawn largely from one senate, which was dominated by the patricians, or the descendants of the original senators from the time of Romulus. Politicals in the early republic were marked by the long struggle between patricians and the plebeians, which were the common people, who eventually attained some political power through years of concessions from patricians, including their own political bodies, the tribunes, which could indicate or veto legislation. In 450 BC, the first Roman law code was inscribed on 12 bronze tablets, known as the 12 Tables, and publicly displayed in the Roman Forum. These laws included issues of legal procedure, civil rights, and property rights, and provided the basis for all future Roman civil law.
Voi siete dei veri malvagi.
Tecnicamente...
Siete mai riusciti a catturare un bravo ragazzo come per esempio un supereroe? Ah, vi siete mai travestiti?
No.
Ok, da quanto vedo direi che io dovrò insegnarvi a essere malvagi. Hey! I numeri uno, hey! I numeri uno.
Ora ascoltatemi bene. Ecco una lezione per imbrogliar. Poche sono le cose da imparar. Se volete essere cattivi si potrà. Dovrete solo dar la caccia a questo qua.
Via, via, via!
Furtivi e sicuri, leggeri come un fiore. Attenti a non far rumore.
No, non toccatelo! Cosa state facendo? Ah!
I numeri I numeri uno. I numeri uno. Guardate questa rete, seguite il mio piano. Quando ve lo dirò, lanciatela lontano. Ora!
Tiratela su di lui, non su di me! Oh, proviamo qualcos'altro.
Cosa farò? Ecco qua, a terra finirà chi di qui passerà.
Oh, che cosa state facendo?
107 BC was the first of a series of warlords who would dominate Rome during the late Republic. By 91 BC, Marius was struggling against attacks by his opponents, including his fellow general Sulla, who emerged as a military dictator around 82 BC. After Sulla retired, one of his former supporters, Pompey, briefly served as a consul before waging successful military campaigns against pirates in the Mediterranean and the forces of Mithridates in Asia. During this same period, Marcus Tullius Cicero, elected consul in 63 BC, famously defeated the conspiracy of the patrician Catiline and won a reputation of Rome's greatest orators.
From Caesar to Augustus. Caesar was murdered by his enemies, led by Brutus and his heir. Octavian triumphed over the forces of Antony and Queen Cleopatra. It's also rumored to be one-time a lover of Julius Caesar. In the Battle of Actium, in the wake of the devastating defeat, Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide. By 29 BC, Octavian was the sole leader of Rome and all its provinces. To avoid meeting Caesar's fate, he made sure to make his position an absolute ruler acceptable to the public by apparently restoring the political institutions of the Roman Republic while in reality retaining all real power for himself. In 27 BC, Octavian assumed the title of Augustus, becoming the first emperor of Rome.
Roman unity under Constantine proved illusionary, and 30 years after his death, the Eastern and Western empires were again divided. Despite continuing the battle against Persian forces, the Eastern and Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, would remain largely intact for centuries to come. An entirely different story played out in the West Empire and whacked by international conflict, as well as threats from abroad, practically from the Germanic tribes now established within the empire's frontiers and steadily losing money due to the constant warfare. Rome eventually collapsed under the weight of its own balanced empire, losing its provinces one by one, Britain around 410, Spain and Northern Africa by 430, Atlub and his brutal Huns invaded Gaul and Italy around 450, further shaking the foundations of the empire. In September 476, a Germanic prince named Octavar won control of the Roman Empire in Italy. After deposing the last Western emperor, Romulus Augustus, Octavius' troops proclaimed him king of Italy, bringing him ignoble end to king. Tumultuous history of ancient Rome, and happy National Missing Children's Day. Welcome back. Good morning, first period.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. Gay sounds right? I just kidding. Alright.
Yo, where's the restroom?
La migra.